I think this is going to be a very challenging time, this next period, as we face into the budget. And Sinn Féin's very clear intention will be to articulate practical, doable alternatives to austerity. Austerity is not working. It might work for the elites, it might work for the wealthy, or for the people in privileged positions. It doesn't work for lower and middle income families. It doesn't work for families whose young people are scattered across the globe. It doesn't work for the almost 500,000 people unemployed. The government, Taoiseach says this is going to be a tough budget. We have to ask, tough for who? There's a big issue about, first of all, we would argue very strongly, and we'd be making our alternative budget proposals at the beginning. We'll be launching at the beginning of October, and we will be going for somewhere between 2 and 2.5 billion as opposed to the government's 3.1 billion, and I would call upon the Taoiseach not to go for that size of an adjustment. But the other big issue is what's the money going to be spent on, and Sinn Féin will be arguing for the budget to be equality proofed, for the government to be mindful of the social consequences of its decisions, and doing our best to defend the rights and entitlements of citizens who have borne a huge burden. And then in terms of the challenges around the referendum on the Seanad, I do believe that Fianna Fáil have made a tactical decision which is entirely publicity orientated, very cynical U-turn. Their manifesto in the last election was for the abolition of the Seanad. They're now arguing for the retention of the Seanad. I listened to Micheál Martin talking about Northern reform, despite the fact that, Northern representation, despite the fact that they did nothing to reform the Seanad in his years as a government minister. And indeed, Fianna Fáil signed up for Northern representation in the Oireachtas, and then they reneged on that. We put forward, you've probably read our proposals for root and branch political reform. I would challenge Micheál Martin to debate these issues of political reform, to debate his record on it, and to debate the issues underpinning the Seanad. I mean, one of the big things that strikes me is Pierce Doherty had to bring the government to the courts to hold the by-election in Donegal. The administration of which Micheál Martin was a senior member refused to give citizens in that constituency the right to vote until they were forced by the courts to do so. So that's our sort of general outline of our intent, our rune going into this next term, and hopefully we live up to that.
In terms of the Seanad, Gerry, Micheál Martin obviously has changed his tune since before the election when he wanted this Seanad to be scrapped. Why do you think he's done that, and do you think it's a populist move by the Fianna Fáil leader?
Well, it isn't so much a populist move, it is a matter of putting himself into the camp which will be given a certain amount of airtime to argue the case. It's the fact that they are the only party arguing for a no does entitle them to publicity that they wouldn't otherwise get. Their years of not reforming, the years of patronage, of using the Seanad to award cronies, the refusal, as I've said earlier on, to even allow people the right to vote in Donegal, all of that just contradicts their current position.
So you think he's just doing it to get more airtime, more media coverage?
Yeah, I mean, that's his job, is to rebuild Fianna Fáil and to use whatever tactic that he can do to do that. I don't think it's a serious commitment to reform. I think his record on the lack of reform is proof that Fianna Fáil isn't for really changing how this place is run.
So, Gerry, are you officially challenging Micheál Martin to a live TV debate? And if so, would you accuse Enda Kenny of running scared? He has ducked and dived Micheál's past challenges.
Well, I'm challenging him to a public debate. How that's organised on television or otherwise is a matter just for logistics. I think that the Taoiseach should be prepared to debate and argue every single issue, but that's a that's a judgment for him to make, not for me. But I certainly would challenge Mícheál Martin to debate these issues with me.
Do you think Leaders' Questions is an adequate platform for such a debate?
No, it's limited. It's 2 minutes and a minute, and it's limited. Understandably, people aren't that focused on the Seanad at this time, given what the Taoiseach described as another tough budget coming at citizens. But we need to try and ensure that we inform people about our different positions on these matters, and the government parties and the Taoiseach have the responsibility to inform that debate as well as the rest of us.